Hey everyone, I'm Jacqui Lewis. Welcome to the third season of Love, Period. In this season, we're exploring what fierce love looks like in a time of trauma, when all around the globe, folks are trying to figure out how to be the best version of human they can be in these difficult and traumatic times. Today's guest on Love, Period is Paul Raushenbush. He is Senior Advisor for Public Affairs and Innovation at Interfaith America. I've known Paul for many, many years now in my life in New York, and no one winds up my speed of talk more than he does as we generate new ideas together. This conversation was about fierce love, much to my delight. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Paul Raushenbush, I'm so glad to see you today.
I am thrilled to be with you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you?
I am good. You know, when I sit back and reflect and look around, I actually am good.
Yeah. You mean like count your blessings good. Good
count
things.
my blessings good. Look at the people who love me and whom I love.
Yeah.
And recognize that there is love surrounding me. I'm going into theme, if you haven't noticed.
I love it. This is
really,
like a communicator's communicator. He is going into theme. Yes, he is.
Well, and you know, I also am coming off of 3 days of reading your book.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm kind of living fierce love right now, and it's been very helpful.
I can't wait to hear more about that. But first of all, tell me about the people you love. How's your family? How's everybody?
My family is glorious. Yeah. I have 2 young boys, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, who are so beautiful and so wise and so funny. And my 7-year-old is a poet and, like, you know, just looking around and so glorious. And my 3-year-old is a monster who is like in destructive mode, but he's also they're so warm. And, you know, speaking of love, you know, I mean, it's just a soaking up love. And giving it off, and not, you know, there's zero agenda there, aside from more love.
That's right.
And so,
honestly,
you know,
right?
my partner Brad Gooch is coming off a book about Rumi, you know, which was the Sufi poet of love, and now he's working on a book about Keith Haring, whose work was very effervescent and, you know, like, you know, difficult, but also, like, you know, you see joy in it and you see love, and he was motivated by that. So we're, you know, we're wonderful. We're steeped in it.
And how's your work going with you, boo?
So we just launched Interfaith America, which is extraordinary, and it's
changed the name and the focus,
we changed the name. It was Interfaith Youth Corps for 20 years, which absolutely was great, and then recently, we just realized that doesn't completely capture what we mean. Yeah. What we mean is more expansive than that, and it's also a vision. It's an organization, but it's a vision.
Yes.
We are Interfaith America. We are not just one thing. We are many things, and we are inter those things. We are connected. No one can be isolated now. It's
That's
not.
Right.
You can't just be your own thing in the corner. You are bumping up against other people. And so the question is, how will we train ourselves up for those encounters? How will we engage those encounters with respect, with understanding, with some sort of awareness of where the other is coming from, which are all kind of the ingredients of love.
Absolutely. And I'm so, you know, I'm a geeky girl who wrote a book. Like, this is my, 4th book, but my first trade book. And so when your friends have read your book, you're like, hey, you read my book. And you feel like, woohoo! And then you go like, oh, damn, also, you read my book. So you know my business.
What? I mean, and as I was reading, I was like, okay, she went there. And, you know, but that's the gift. The gift of fierce love is, you know, the action, but also the book is that you went to the point of where the trauma, the hurt, the pain, which frankly are the places where the love, the blessing have to go in order for us to heal. And so, you know, and again and again, the thing about storytelling like what you did is that you gave permission for the reader to connect with their own points of pain. You gave permission for the reader to recognize that, I'm not alone.
Right.
And I may not have exactly the same experience, but I have my experiences, and this is giving me space and permission to reflect on those experiences, go into those experiences, and how do I find the pathway through?
Yeah.
Because you also showed us the pathway through.
I'm so glad that you feel that way.
And it inspired compassion in the way that the best narrative does. It invited. By being so honest, you invited us into compassion. And, the vulnerability place, I understand exactly what you mean by, like, now that he's read my book.
Exactly.
And but what you did is you actually allowed me to see what was going on in the inside and not just have the very, Jacqui is a powerful woman. For those of you who haven't met her in person, she is a powerful, beautiful, composed, and also fierce woman who...
I paid him to say that, all that.
Not at all. But that's the trick, is that, how do we get beyond the front?
Yep.
And get into the real.
Yeah.
And that's what you do as a preacher. This is like a sermon. This reads like a whole sermon to me. It's storytelling with a story of redemption. It's also, I know you are very interfaith in your outlook and welcoming of all people of all faiths. It's also for me, it resonated as a Christian because, you just see how there's no resurrection without the crucifixion.
There's no resurrection without the crucifixion.
And the crucifixion is a reality of life, unfortunately.
Amen. Yep.
We want to get rid of I am not glorifying the crucifixion. Make no mistake. I just recognize that it's there.
It happened. It's happening, right?
It's happening right now to a lot of the people who are listening right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And so giving us the story of redemption as well. And also that the redemption is not always a solitary thing. Yeah. It often comes because community has come into play.
Yeah.
And been invited into play. And so now I'm preaching.
No,
your
I like
book
it.
was a preaching. Was a sermon.
I love you preaching. But let's, some of the readers, some of the listeners haven't read the book. I hope they will. But I really want to pull apart some of the things in that, Paul, and kind of apply them to your life and mine, right? And the world. And so one of the things I'm thinking about right now is like let's start with your boys. Your boys who you say a poet and a monster. And
by the way, when I say monster,
I know exactly what you mean.
He's just he's a force of nature.
Yeah, I've got that grandson.
And I love that. This is not like,
you're just describing. You're just describing.
I'm descriptive, and he's also like extraordinary in so many other ways. So I just want, for the record,
just
Glenn,
in case someday,
if you're listening to this when you're 18, please.
Daddy said I was a monster. The reason I actually wanted to come back to your boys is, I've got 2 grandchildren that John gave me by way of marriage, right? I married John, and I got Joel, and Joel is my son, and he's amazing, and I helped him get fixed up with his wife, Gabby, and they're married. This all worked out so great, and we got 2 little people. And one is 4 and one is 3. And they are monsters and they are poets. And they love playing monster with us. That's our big game. Run, tag, hide, like, roar! And we roar and they run. And Ophelia says, freeze! And Octavius doesn't have as many words yet, but he goes, wah! So this place of kind of knowing them, that's what you did. You gave us short stories about who your boys are and how they're flourishing inside the love that you and your partner have. God, Paul, so many kids are not, right? So many little people don't have big people like your partner and you, or Gabby and Joel, or me and John in their lives. And I have a broken heart about that, right? I have a broken heart about the way the trauma of these last years has our little people so vulnerable, Paul, where they are still separated from their parents and we don't talk about it. They still don't have safe drinking water in Detroit, Flint, and we don't talk about it. They still don't have good health care or good computers. They're still living on a dying planet and we don't talk about it. And they, and we know who I mean, they are coming for us They're coming for queer families. They're coming for interracial families. My marriage isn't legal till 1967. Hello. And they're coming for trans kids. Who knows what Ophelia, Octavius, Glenn, the boys are going to be? Who knows? What is the thing that you took away from reading this book, Fierce Love, that would be a message to the adults who have to make containers for their kids? Like, how can we love our children passed through in this time of craziness?
I think we have a sense of our children as simultaneously very, very vulnerable, but also as, they'll get over it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not realizing that they are soaking everything up, every message.
Yeah.
They're getting the message.
Yes, they are.
Whether or not you realize it.
Right.
And so to put my cards on the table right now, like, I would never go live in Florida. Because if you say that you can't mention gay families at all, like that means you're erasing the family that my sons are in.
Right.
And that means, like, they don't exist in the eyes of their,
Right.
and it becomes very much the other.
Yes.
Whereas, we're very fortunate here in New York City to have them going to schools where that's recognized. Not the weird thing is that the idea that this is being forced on anybody. No one's forcing anything on anything. It's just being acknowledged as part of the classroom makeup.
Part of the human experience.
Part of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think our job is to recognize where we can when our children are getting messages that are harmful.
Yep.
And also where they're actually creating physical spaces that are harmful.
Right.
And I think what your book does is it names them.
Yeah.
It names them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say it doesn't matter. It matters.
It does matter.
It matters. It matters like who. It says exactly who we are.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that
Seriously,
your
Paul?
book does is, like, it names things and says, don't say this isn't who we are. This is who we are until we're not doing it anymore.
Exactly.
And when we're not doing it anymore, we can say that's not who we are.
Right. That's
For
right.
now, this is who we are.
This is who we are.
So deal with that.
Yeah.
And let's deal with that.
Yeah.
And let's change who we are. One of the important ideas of the kind of faith I have is that, yes, there's personal redemption, but there's also societal redemption. Right. And the idea that we can't do better by the children in Detroit or Flint, essentially saying that God is not working in the world right now.
Excellent.
And we are hopelessly fallen and there's just nothing we can do,
right.
Which to me seems a very anti-Christian message.
Yeah, absolutely, friend. Yeah, it's true. And, one of the things, was just April is my mother's big month. Oh my God, can you get through April? Her birthday's April 11. Her anniversary April 20th with my dad, and then she died on the 25th, and then it's Mother's Day. So these few weeks have been very Emma-centric in my consciousness, my memory. I will say both super painful, and also, y'all, I've never felt more faith in the resurrection than I do now. Post her death. And I do mean something different than some of the folks who'll be like, okay, see, I feel like I feel her all the time. Like, she's here. Not wait till heaven or reign of God, but I feel her all the time. And I feel also the absence of her, right? So I both feel her and the absence of her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Almost can smell her, almost can physically feel her, the way her hands feel, a little arthritis. Like, it's strange, but it's true. And I think it's the kind of, it might be my trauma reaction is I'm, regressed into her arms, regressed into her womb, regressed into her care. Just, mommy, where are you? And let me feel you.
Maybe progressed.
Okay, I like that.
Not
that's
regressed.
Better.
Maybe progressed. I'm just
no, that's good.
I'm not going to change your story at all. I just think, like, what you're inviting is that nothing's finished.
Oh, good, sweetie. Thank you for that. That's better.
And
he did it
you're
better.
not going backwards.
Yeah, going forward.
You're going forwards with her.
In a new way.
In a new way and in a intimate way. In a union way.
Yeah.
I think it's gorgeous, and, it's an empowering phenomenon. And I'll just say, like, it's a blessing.
It's huge.
I don't feel my mom that way. I am very comfortable with the way I do feel my mom.
Right.
I'm inspired by her and all, but I don't feel her like that. So I just would that's a blessing.
It is.
And how wonderful. I mean, in some ways, also hurtful. I mean, it also, the pain of the presence and the absence at the same time, that's hard.
It is hard.
But we don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on. It's a mystery. We've been to school a lot, and we don't know. We collectively don't know. But the thing that is, that I'm wanting to communicate, and I tried to write in Fierce Love is, her dying, Paul, really did push something in me, right? I mean, how to describe I think I say something like the truth that we got said between us, of me being kind of upset that she didn't know about my crazy bad touch story, and how, but to finally be able to go, like, there's nothing between her and I that's except just straight, clear, clean, beauty, gorgeous, truth, honest, the excruciating beauty of that then, I swear to God, Paul, if you can be honest with your mom about the only thing you're mad at her about, your mom, I think you have to tell the truth all the time. Something changed in me. It's like she pushed me out of the womb more. And I cannot, our Spanish-speaking friends say, no tengo un pelo en la boca, or something. I have no hair in my mouth. I cannot lie about stuff right now. And the container of mom, this is what it looks like to be nice. This is what a lie is. This is how you care for the sick. I'm watching her watch the world. See that right there? That's effed up, Jack. Don't do that. Don't do that. This is what love looks like. Holy cow, Paul. Your job as a dad, her job as a mom, my job as an auntie and a grandmother and as a preacher, our job as adults is to create a container in which we can teach our children how to love the hell out of this world. Paul, if we're not doing that, we should go home. That's it. That's everybody's job.
Yes. And it's our job to do and teach at the same time.
At the same time.
And to recognize that none of us are going to be perfect in our love. And to be, in some ways, gentle with ourselves. Yeah. Because, I have a lot of anger.
Yeah. What are you angry about?
I'm angry when I feel that good people are misusing their goodness. I feel very few people are really irredeemable. But I do feel like right now there is just so much energy being put into such bad faith. Yep. A super clear example is like QAnon.
Oh my God.
And how QAnon is up, this is like, it's really interesting. I was just reading an article about how QAnon is upending evangelical churches because they're coming in there and saying, you got to be preaching QAnon belief, not Jesus belief. These are not like progressives. These are conservatives, and QAnon is upending this, and they're saying, all of their work is to save the children, and it's all based on a lie, and it's all based on an illusion. Yeah. And there's so much energy that could be put into the kind of stuff we were talking about earlier, where real things are happening. Yes. And it's instead being directed towards a complete fiction. Yep. And all this energy, it's ridiculous. And so I feel angry about that. I feel like we're, it's a missed opportunity to harness the moral goodness of people, and it's being directed in a very destructive way. Yeah. I'm angry at what I view as like an existential threat to my family. Absolutely. And I think it's a really good point. You're in an interracial marriage. That is recent history. Yeah.
1967,
1967. It's the same time as Roe.
Yesterday. Exactly.
And in a recent confirmation of Justice Jackson, it came up. state rights.
I know.
And they were like, well, if we're consistent, interracial marriage laws should also be put back to the states.
Right. And she, who is married to a white man, sitting there listening to that, plus they raked her, they lynched her, Paul. They did. It was horrible.
So anyway, one of the hopeful things is like, I think that there's like the courageous love that you talk about and this, in the book, The Fierce Love, is sometimes if you have a chance to be in front of someone who you thought was totally your enemy.
Right.
And anyone who's done Israel, Palestine, race work, gender, sexual orientation, the binary is very quick and you say, okay, you're the enemy.
Right.
And if you can be in front of them, because people can change their minds.
Of course they can. Yeah.
It's constant expansion. I view myself as like a case in point. Like all my life, I've kind of assumed things and then had someone like slap me upside the head and say, why are you assuming that? I am not like the righteous one. I'm just saying like, so I'm hopeful that if we can find ways to encounter with one another, hopefully people can view like your marriage and my marriage not as threatening.
Exactly.
But as expressions of love that should be welcome.
Period. Would that your babies and mine can grow up in a world where we get there. I don't know that I can think, I think I'm older than you, but let's not be clear.
I don't think so. I'm 57.
Are you? Ha! I've got you by 5 years. I'm 62.
You're 52?
62.
Oh, I thought you were going down.
62.
Oh, when you said I got you by 2, I thought you had 5 more years than me, not 5 less years than
5,
me. Okay,
yep.
62. So you're obviously wiser.
No, just by 5 years. Only 5 years. But look, have we ever lived in a time where it wasn't crazy? No, we haven't. We can't say we have. Right. We haven't lived in a time, you and I, where we could go, oh, remember in 1942, which wasn't that time either, but some of the people living in 42 would have said that was the time. Mommy cooked and had on an apron and daddy came home from work and had a gin and tonic or whatever the hell they had a picture of that looked like something. We haven't seen that. I want that, Paul. I want so much. I mean, I'm a universalist Christian, but I'm like, I want John's vision. I want a city with a river running through it. I do. I want Carly Simon's song being sung as the theme song. I want the leaves on the trees to heal the people. I love that text that says, God's presence is so in the city, you don't even need a temple. You don't even need streetlights. I want Zechariah 8. I want old people chilling, because I'm going to be one of the old people. I want to be listening to some Luther Vandross, and the kids are playing double dutch and shooting hoops. I want the whole deal where your kids get to be themselves, where the immigration conversation doesn't disenfranchise brown kids and enfranchise white ones. I want Black children's lives to matter. I don't want to see any more frickin' films of people being shot dead. And I think we have a problem of like white nationalist bullshit masquerading as Christianity.
I agree. And here's the hopeful part.
Okay.
That is not an expanding group. There are people within the evangelical world who have transformed their, they've kind of forfeited their spirituality in some ways to kind of merge with a kind of Trumpist white nationalist agenda.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot more people are being converted to that. That's not something that you can preach on a Sunday and people are going to say, oh, I want to come to that altar call. What you're seeing is literally white knuckling of an idea of America that they feel is they're losing.
So this is
a
death grip.
And so I know lots of evangelicals from different faith traditions, different racial backgrounds, but including white ones who are aghast at that, and they are trying to rally and say that's not the future of our faith. It cannot be. And so I think if we really kind of say what is attractive about it and recognize that it's a white knuckle movement. of a fist clenched, trying to hold on to a dream that they don't even know what that dream is. And then my prayer is that there's a releasing of the fist at some point. And they actually see, like, if they opened up their hand, they might see that they could take my hand, they could take your hand, and that they could be part of a circle, a broader circle that included everyone, instead of insisting on their superior place
in the world.
In the world. You know, that is my prayer.
That. Your lips to God ears, and I'll join you. I'll join you. So one of the arguments I'm making in this book is that if we loved ourselves, we'd be able to love our neighbors and love the world. True? What do you think?
I think the way you describe it, it's true. I think sometimes it can lead to a kind of narcissism, unfortunately. You know, the way you lay that out, I think what I love about your book in regards to self-love, you're looking at the places in your life that you thought you could never talk about because they were too shameful. And they had had an effect on you that you thought was detrimental. And you had to keep it hidden and you had to push it down. And to flip that and say, actually, those are places that in part made me who I am, and I am a strong person.
I grew strong around that.
I grew stronger around that, even though I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Anybody,
And so that kind of self-love, crucial. The kind of like, you know what, we should go to Big Sur, spend time with my chakras and make sure, you know, I mean, like, that's what I, sometimes
you don't want to go there.
You know, sometimes it gets to a little bit like, you know, and then why don't you go somewhere where people need you? You know, so I it's a balance, but I do think like everybody has to do the work that you're describing in self-love, you know, fierce love of self-love, and then do what you did, which is reach out to people who have gone through similar things, created a community. People, if you do not know about Middle Church.
Holy cow, right?
People, if you do not know about Middle Church, if you've never been to Middle Church on anything they're doing, you don't know. I mean, walking in there is to realize, okay, look, all these people who have all of this, because Jacqui has created a space where they can bring them all their self in.
All their stuff. Bring your stuff.
All their stuff. And not inflict anything bad on it, but use it for compassion. And making music and dancing. And, you know, hopefully we're going to get to joy.
Oh, my gosh. Absolutely.
Hopefully we're going to get to joy.
You got to get to joy.
Because what I think that's where I recognize that. I recognize where your insistence
on joy.
I'm
so stubborn about it, right?
Well, you know, and you create spaces for it so that we have all this stuff, and we have to love that self, and then we have to also. There's something cathartic about getting up and dancing, singing, laughing, being silly, and also saying amen together. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, I just think Middle Church is so amazing in that way. And you've created it. And everybody who's ever been there. And I'm just going to wax for a second. Like, I saw you doing this amazing book event.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, so cool.
You are, everything you do you're creating a congregation which is doing what congregations are meant to do. There are literal communities of people coming from wherever. That's the reason I went into this gig. There was a small church that anyone who walked in there and decided they wanted to be a part of it, they were a part of it. So we had homeless people. We had people who did not speak English. We had like kind of one of each. Like it was like 50 people. It was not like, it was Madison Avenue Baptist Church at the time. This was in the 90s when someone said, you know what? And I was like, I am not going to be a minister. And someone said, you should maybe see what it's like in a church. And I went there and I was like, where else could these people come into a community and feel full dignity? They were recognized as human beings, not defined by all those other things, but fully a member. And that's what you do at Middle. It's astounding and beautiful. And so
middle taught me. You've known me long enough to know that I was wrestling about what it meant to have a grown-up God, like, for a long time. I worked on this book for 10 years, probably, and migrated from a talk of grown-up God to a talk of God as love, because that was my journey. But middle took me on this journey, really. What does it look like when the building is burning down?
Oh.
My traumatized congregants are watching the fire and taking care of the neighbors next door, because those women got smoked out, not burned out, but smoked out. Is there anything we can do right here? Nope. So literally we're taking them to Midtown shopping, not the Kmart around the corner, but to Midtown to get robes and slippers and some extra lounge. I mean, the DNA of open the doors for queer people to get married before it was legal, to feed the poor Polish kids and the Ukrainian kids before the neighborhood was Black and Hispanic and poor, to say y'all come and mean it, and to party
and
like
to create a space for arts.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, incredible. Like throughout the 70s and 80s, where like real artistic creation happened in that space. So this is, it's amazing. And now, I wonder if you want to say just a word about like your relationship with the rabbi, who I just think that's another example of love that is, it's also like, what foundations are we laying with every encounter in order to build the next thing? And I think that's what it is. Amanda and I talked today, and she goes, "Can I ask you questions?" I'm like, "Sure." Yeah, I mean, y'all who are listening, many of you know this is season 3 of this podcast. The middle burned down in December of 2020. And we've had such kindness from people, but really not space. We rented a space for a little while at this church that, we were a tenant, and it was about 3 months between October COVID not and December COVID again. But the miracles, I would say that the things I have found in the fire, Paul, I have found these things in the fire: incredible kindness and generosity. 650 people have joined the church since March of 2020. That's 2 congregations. That's crazy town. They have found us in Ireland, Paris, Perry Street. Crazy town. Like 650 people since we shut down in March have joined the church. So we found colleagues, allies that could come to church in their pajamas. There's a woman and her husband who pray with me every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. It's their afternoon tea in the UK, and they come and pray. It's crazy. But also Rabbi Josh Stanton and his people, who are one of the many people who wrote and said, if we can do anything, let us know. And when I called and said, Josh, it's now time for a space, basically the space we have is free. I mean, we got a little bit of money we're paying, but it's like zero compared to what it would cost. And one of their benefactors is paying, 3/4 of our little rent. What did they say? They made a mishkan, a tabernacle for us to tabernacle with them. Why? Because Josh and I have a relationship. Why? Because I understand that Jesus is a Jew. Hello. And why? Because it's true. So we have curated these interfaith partnerships for all these years, but especially the last 20, where we are friends with our Muslim colleagues and our Sikh colleagues, Valerie, and our Jewish colleagues and our Buddhist colleagues. We have a deep relationship with this interfaith bunch of clergy in the East Village. And y'all, if we don't know that God speaks more than one language, we've really missed out on something. So it's a beautiful gift to imagine the partnerships we're going to do with them. They're going to host our Freedom School this summer. So how many more things will we do together? Like so many things, because I don't know. That's what love looks like. That is one of the lessons of the many lessons I'm sure we could talk about is open hearts are never wasted. That'll preach right there. That'll preach. Invitation, generosity, kindness, taking time, which is our most precious commodity. Yeah. Taking time to find the relationship, to find the, to build it. Right. You could have said, oh, Josh, whatever. But you took the time to get to know Josh Stanton, and he took the time to get to know you.
Jacqui Lewis.
Yeah, Jacqui Lewis. And I just think that that's instructive for everyday living. It's taking the time, looking around, and it invites the idea that every day is fraught with possibility.
Ooh, yeah. Including joy. I mean, make sure we talk about it. Paul, we know each other through our relationships in institutions and as human beings. I always think of you as a joyful, kind spirit. That's what I think of you as, among other things. I mean, you're also brilliant and thoughtful. But, is joy hereditary? I don't know. My mother was like a throw your head back and laugh out loud woman. My dad thinks he's funny. And, Daddy, sometimes you're just plain off color and rude. But I know you think it's funny, but we grew up laughing. I have a video of my siblings. We did Christmas in February because none of us could all get together at Christmas time. So we got there for my sister's birthday in Chicago. All of us came home. We were in the kitchen, which is so small. You go home and you're like, did we actually fit in this kitchen? In this kitchen, it's so small. And we turn on Get Up Off of That Thing, James Brown. And my dad, who has a girlfriend, loves dancing to this song with her. But before that, Daddy always had this weird dance when we were little. It was called the Mockingbird. And it was a dance just like now you might do the good foot or whatever. He did this dance. So each of us just mocked the hell out of my father, dancing in the kitchen, teasing him. And he was laughing and we were laughing. And we were like, now do that other part. Like grown-ups, 62 to 50, dying, laughing at each other, teasing each other. And, we didn't have a perfect house. We had anger and drama in our house. We had hurt feelings in our house. But we always had deep, abiding sense that they would do anything for us, love. And we always had so much fun together. So I learned joy like I learned how to write. I did. I learned how to laugh and how to roll with it and how to not be embarrassed if you fell down. How did you learn joy, Paul? And can we teach it?
Joy to me is one of those things where you feel completely right. So it doesn't have to be loud. But it doesn't have to be loud, and it doesn't have to be. But it's where you're just like, it's not something I wish I could teach it more. But even part of this conversation, I'm joyful having this conversation because I feel like I'm being inspired and we're vibing, and so joy can come through a great conversation with a friend. Yeah. Where you feel understood, you feel heard, you feel seen, and you leave saying, oh, yeah, I'm alive. Yep. That's like, for me, it's like saying I'm alive and no one can take that away from me. All the things that I worry about, I'm alive and I'm overflowing. Yep. And so there's an overflowingness to it. And I want to share it and I want to be a part of it. It's communal. I think joy is, it's a personal experience, but it's generally like something you share. And, in a community. And, a lot of my life was spent until I was like probably 35, 40, going to nightclubs. Okay. Nightclubs were the place where I found transcendence and ecstasy and community. Yep. Because on the dance floor, and on the dance floor. Are you a good dancer? You know what, I am.
All right, now
I can do it. I can do it. Now I'm like, watch out for Grandpa Paul. But, in the day. So, I was in New York and there were nightclubs and people would be on the floor. Yeah. And you would get in there, and there was this song that said, I feel joy when I think about what you've done for me. And the entire place would be just thumping, and people would be arms up, and it was like church. It was absolutely church. Yeah. Because people felt it, and everybody felt the movement, and we were all part of one thing. Yeah. Yeah. And the DJ knew it. Yeah. And so those were really moments of church for me. And that was actually really how I used to go to nightclubs. I do feel like that's another, like, if you're not dancing, find a way to dance.
Yep,
if you're not like creating some poetry, find a way to
make a pie.
Make a pie.
Yes.
Make something. So this is, it's not all about, joy feels to me like a very overflowing emotion, and some things are just satisfaction, which is also great. But I don't know, you describe joy in a very particular way in your book, and I'd love maybe you can read just a passage.
I'm going to read a passage about the joy.
I think that it's revelatory the way you described it, and I think very important.
I love that you wanted to talk about joy here. The way I thought about joy when I was writing, which I was really struck, Paul, my own finding upon it, that it's the water of life. Like I say, joy is the water of life. So peaceable feeling. I had to move. I didn't want to move, but I had to move. I moved out of my parsonage to this apartment on 21st and FDR. I don't like the traffic patterns, but I have found myself waking up, sitting in the window, looking at the East River. Oh my God, joy. Coffee with John, joy. Watching Ophelia giggle, joy. Roaring with the children, joy. Making love with John, joy. Sitting down to a glass of red wine and the best chocolate cake. Absolutely joy. Absolutely joy. And I fight in here in the book a little bit about happiness, joy. Like, don't get stuck. I had a guy white-splain to me one time, happiness is like, external and stuff, but joy is like in the middle of your suffering, like, you still feel at peace. Maybe. Maybe. Or joy is, like Rumi says, when you do something from your soul. It's a river. It's a joy. I love that. That's it to me. It's like I'm looking at the ocean, joy. You got to know, listener, what gives you joy. Contentada. Contentment in Spanish seems like it gets at it. I'm at peace. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling satisfied. I'm feeling resonant with the world. I think you can have joy in the midst of the suffering. I think you can have joy in the midst of the COVID. I think you can have joy in the midst of the heartbreak. But I'm defining it as this essential feeling that comes in your soul, not because you pretended that everything was okay, but that you looked at your life squarely, took it on the chin. This part sucks, and I'm left with this. Joy doesn't come from being false. It comes from looking squarely at the truth of our circumstances, feeling what's inside authentically, and then turning a grateful heart toward the good and the bad and the ugly as part of living life. My hip hurts. F it, I'm alive. Joy. You know what I mean? My shoes are too tight. Sit down and put your feet up, go buy some new ones tomorrow. Joy. I do think it is a character trait that we can develop. And I think it's about what we decide to look at, learning how to see. It's a perspective set. I think when you come out of a fire and you didn't die in it, you have a feeling of joy. I think when you break up with your lover and you know that it's going to be better for you, it's joy. So you're right, it isn't always loud and raucous, but it is a kind of feeling of satisfaction resourced with truth. That's how I would define it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and some of that was read directly from the book, in case you didn't notice.
Some of that was faced.
Yeah, some of that was straight from.
This is what I say on page 177, which I think you liked. Can you feel what I mean by joy? Joy is a feeling of freedom, of bounce back, of contentment, of wonder. Joy is a reservoir of goodness that makes you rock back and forth and hug yourself. It makes you smile for no reason, or your smile might prompt it. Joy makes you tilt your head back full in full-throated laugh. Joy comes around the way, on the way, in the interstitial places between now and not yet, tired and rested, broken and healing, worried and hopeful. Sometimes joy is an eruption, a surprise. Sometimes it's just peace way down in your belly, like our talk. It makes your face shine with gladness and contentment. Mother Teresa said, joy is strength. Y'all, can joy help us in these times of trauma? Paul, I hope so.
I think we're lost without it. I think that you can also identify practices in people that give you joy.
Yep.
And make sure it's part of your week.
Get some joy.
Get some joy.
Walk on the river.
Absolutely.
Coffee with a friend.
Read a great poem. you can even, some people on TikTok can give you joy.
For sure.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Get your joy where you can.
But find a lot of what my work has been online. Like how are we online?
Yeah.
And what the online world does to us in good and bad ways. And I think it's especially important online to find spaces of joy. Yeah. Because the online world can be very alienated. It can be very, you can feel very attacked. Yeah. So make sure, if you're spending time online, like most of us are,
curate.
Find places of joy in online. Like there are beautiful things going on in the online, but you have to make sure you have them bookmarked. So you can say, I've hit it. I need to go to that place of joy.
Absolutely, that's
right.
And
so I just, that's my one pitch for self-care online, which I'm very interested in. So
love yourself, get some care, find some joy for the facing of these days.
Amen.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Jacqui.
I'm so glad to talk with you, my friend.
Jacqui.
Thank you.
Fierce love. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, my friend.
My pleasure to be
well.
with you.
In my conversation with Paul Raushenbush, we reflected on personal aspects of our life, our partners, his children, and the very real ways that what we think might be evil is just not enough. I'd love to know what you think Fierce Love's got to do with all of this.